It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Ambassador Joao Vale de Almeida, who is the head of the delegation of the European Union to the United States. He presented his credentials to President Obama on August 10th of 2010 to serve a 4-year term. Prior to the appointment as the EU's ambassador, he served as Director General for External Relations for the European Commission, and importantly helped to formulate and execute the foreign policy as part of the Treaty of Lisbon. The ambassador joined the European Commission in 1982. At its delegation in Lisbon, the ambassador is a Portuguese citizen and holds a degree in history from the University of Lisbon. The ambassador was presented with the Order of Prince Henry the Navigator, one of Portugal's highest honors, by the President of Portugal, Anibal Cavaco Silva, at a ceremony celebrating National Day of Portugal on June 10th, 2011. Please welcome me in two things. One, or join me in welcoming the ambassador and wishing him a happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I think you revealed a very important secret. So it's no longer a secret. I'm today 56, which seems a lot for most of you, and I'm very happy for you that it seems a lot. I'm exactly the age of the Treaty of Rome. I was born in 1957, and the Treaty of Rome was signed in 1957, or entered into force in 1957. And the Treaty of Rome was launched the European community. Well, I'm saying this just to show how committed I am to European integration, because I was born in the same year. So you should have no doubts about my commitment to Europe and to the European project, but also to highlight where we come from. And the European Union, which I represent in the United States, is 56 years old. And it responded and replied and reacted to 2 world wars that started in Europe, many centuries of conflicts inside Europe, Europeans killing Europeans. And at one point in time we said, I think this is enough. This is enough, and we need to do something different in the European continent. And we started in 1957. And we've come a long way. Actually, we have the longest period of peace in this part of Europe ever. 70 years without wars in this part of Europe. This is quite an achievement. We are extremely proud for that. And we were very honored to have been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2012. Which we believe is a recognition of what we've done up to now. So just to tell you where we come from, what I represent, today the European Union, which started with 6 countries, is now bringing together 27 countries, very soon 28 with the arrival of Croatia in a few months' time. We have 500 million people in the European Union. 500 million people living in peace, as I explained, but also with the highest levels of prosperity around the world, only comparable to the ones in the United States. We have full respect for human rights across the entire European Union. Of course, respect for democracy. Non-democratic countries cannot be part of the European Union. And we brought together people as different as the Portuguese, like I am, and the Estonians on the border with Russia. We brought together people that were behind the Iron Curtain during the, confrontation period between the West and Soviet Union. They are now together with us. We have brought together people that were under dictatorship in Western Europe, like Portugal or Greece or Spain. And today, inside the European Union, these 500 million people who live in peace, democracy, individual freedom, respect for human rights, rule of law. These people can travel freely around Europe. There are no borders inside Europe. I mean, you go from one country to the other and you don't even realize that you've changed country. Goods can circulate freely, services, capitals can circulate freely. We have a common external border, but we have no internal borders. Some of these countries have moved a step further in terms of integration because they now have a single currency, the euro. 17 out of the 27 have a single currency with a single central bank, a single monetary policy. And they have reached the, most advanced stage of economic integration because not only they have a single market, as I said, freedom of circulation of people, goods, services, and capitals, they also have a common currency. So you can use the euro in 17 countries. So in fact, you can start in Lisbon, which is a nice city to visit, by the way, and you can go all the way to Estonia. Nobody will stop you. And in most of those countries, you can use the same currency. This is Europe today. But we are, as I said, 500 million people, the most important economic bloc in the world, the most important trader, imports and exports, no one does better than us, and the most important provider of development assistance, humanitarian assistance around the world, Africa, Asia, Latin America. So this is Europe today. And the Europe of tomorrow, I'm sure will continue this process of further and further integration. We call it an ever closer union among the 27 member states, 28 in July, and maybe 29 or 30 or 31 or 32 in a couple of years, we will see. We keep open. The countries that have a vocation to become members are the countries in the Balkans, Southeastern Europe, like Croatia joining this year, but countries like Montenegro, Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Albania. All these countries have the vocation, Kosovo potentially, have the vocation to become members of the European Union. Beyond that, we have an ongoing process of negotiating accession with Turkey and with Iceland. We still haven't convinced the Swiss to join us, but we will not give up. And the Norwegians, for the moment, are too rich to even consider that possibility because they have oil and gas. But you never know. One day, maybe they will decide to join. But apart from these countries, you have the entirety of Western and Central Europe, either already in or likely to come inside the European Union. We will have to see, maybe later on, the future of Ukraine, Belarus, countries that are in the European continent, but for different reasons are still far away from the prospect of accession to the European Union. So this is what I represent in Washington, together with the ambassadors of all the 27, 28 member states of the European Union. So this is who I am. I'm Portuguese, working on behalf and for Europe, representing all of us in the United States. It's a great honor, great privilege, and I'm extremely happy. And because I know that the United States is not only Washington, I try to travel as much as I can around the United States, and I'm extremely happy to be here today with my wife and my advisor to visit New Orleans and most of all be able to talk to you here today. So I'll be replying to any questions that you want to raise, any comment that you want to make, but because I know that I'm sure you are interested to see how Europe is doing on the economic front, and that you question yourselves about what do I have to do with that as an American, and about the relationship between the EU and the US, let me say a few words about that before I reply to your questions. On the economic front, and I'll try to be simple and short. I think Europe is coming out of the woods. I think the worst is behind us in terms of economic crisis, in terms of the troubles and turbulence inside the euro area, and all the signs are turning positive. We are not yet back to growth, but I hope we will by the end of the year, beginning of next year. The markets are much happier than they were a few months ago. Confidence is returning, and this is very good news. Very good news for Europe, but I think also very good news for America. This does not mean that all the problems are solved, and we should not be complacent about them. We engaged in a very ambitious process of reforms in Europe, which are imposing significant sacrifices upon our people. Levels of unemployment have gone up. Economic activity went down. Some countries are in recession. Some economies are stalling. These are not the best times, but these were absolutely necessary tools for us to recover from a very difficult situation a few years ago as a direct aftershock of the financial crisis. And these are absolutely necessary measures to put the European economies back on track, increase the competitiveness in world markets, and being able, when this period is over, to fully benefit from the next positive economic cycle. This is our bet, this is our ambition. I believe we are on the right track to achieve that. On the links between Europe and the US, I was saying this should matter for Americans as much as your situation, your economic situation, it matters for us. If there is one lesson that we need to draw from the financial crisis that started, by the way, on this side of the Atlantic in 2007, which developed in 2008 and 2009 to affect Europe, to affect Asia, Latin America, and the whole world. There is one lesson that we should draw from this is, as I used to say, we are in this together. The economy, the world economy is so globalized, is so interconnected, is so interdependent that what happens here in Louisiana matters for Europe as much as what happened in Greece matters for Louisiana, as much as a strike in China or a nuclear accident in Fukushima, Japan, disrupts the entire global supply chain with effects all over. So of course, we are in this together. And that's why it's so important that we look at the potential of the cooperation between the EU and the US. Together, we represent 800 million consumers, with the highest consuming power in the world. Together, EU and the US represent 50% of the world's wealth, world's GDP. We represent and we trade 40% of the trade in services around the world and 30% of the trade in manufactured goods. So this is meaningful. This is critical mass. And sometimes people overlook these figures. We are so obsessed with China, and rightly so, because it's a great success story, a great change for mankind. Millions of people are lifted out of poverty. We are building a new middle class that, by the way, is buying a lot of Mercedes and Audis, and that's very good for our economy. But it's a success story. It's good for the Chinese people. It's good for the world. But we sometimes are a little bit too obsessed with Asia and China, and we forget that we have next door a very powerful economic engine across the Atlantic. And that maybe this engine can even go faster and deliver more for us. And what I wanted to tell you is that one of my obsessions is, of course, to make this relationship work even better. We've been engaging with the Americans to do that. And I see very good signs at the beginning of a second mandate for President Obama that we can do even better in the transatlantic cooperation, politically and economically. On the political front, we have to realize that the world is a dangerous place, that we have enemies of democracy, that we have a number of threats. Some of these threats are relatively well known and are traditional threats. Some are much less well known and are non-traditional threats. And we need to be ready for both. And the only way for us to cope with these challenges is to act together. I'm talking about terrorism, I'm talking about nuclear proliferation, as I'm talking about climate change. And I'm talking about energy security as much as I'm talking about water management and water scarcity and how we're going to do to provide water for the rising population as much as how we're going to do to provide food for 7 billion people very soon. So all these challenges require, in my view, cooperation first and foremost between those who have the same values, share the same principles, basically, and have fundamentally the same geostrategic interests. And these are, obviously, Americans and Europeans. There is no other relationship that has so much in common, also historically and culturally. And New Orleans is maybe the best place in the US to witness how much we have in common, how much Europe is part of this country. And so I believe that there is even more that we can do together on the political front, on foreign policy, on security, on addressing global challenges, but also on the economy. I mentioned a few figures of the importance of this economic cooperation. We believe we can do better than that. And we are in the process of preparing what could be one of the most important economic agreements ever, which is a comprehensive economic agreement, or a free trade area, if you want, between the United States and the European Union, which will bring together all these 800 million consumers, which will set rules that will apply to trade, investment, regulatory cooperation across the Atlantic. But because of our critical mass in the world, if we do that, we will be in a much better position to influence the way the world is organized, the rules of the game. We want to do that in cooperation with other partners. But if we believe in our values of the rule of law, a fair trade, balanced trade, I think if we join efforts, we are in a better position to, in cooperation with others, in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, in the Middle East, make the world a better place. Take the full benefit of trade and cross-investment to lift the quality of life of people, to improve economic standards, and overcome the present crisis situation that came out of the 2007-2008 financial crisis. So on all these grounds, I'm optimistic. I'm committed to contribute and to continue to contribute to all these goals. I go around the United States, as I do here in Louisiana, New Orleans, talking to people. Every time I meet people, I find interlocutors that share this commitment and this optimism, and I'm very happy to see it in Tulane University today. I've talked to your leadership, your hierarchy here in the university. We have a very good discussion just a while ago, and I'll be happy to share some of my views and also to listen to you. And please be critical, ask the right questions and whatever goes in your mind. And I'm looking forward to our dialogue. Thank you very much.
If you could please take a microphone when you ask a question. And yeah. All right.
You want to start? Go.
Okay, thank you. Well, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Thank you very
You
much.
mentioned that you're very optimistic about the future of the European Union. but a lot of people say with the recent economic crisis, it showed a lot of cracks, especially with different ideas from different countries, especially with their financial system. So currently you have Angela Merkel with a more conservative vision who wants the European Central Bank to play a more active role in oversight of banks in other countries. And then you have like Hollande in France, who's rather antithetical to all of her views. So how do you see that working out in the future when you have such different visions in one system? Thank you.
Just one quick thing. Could you please identify yourself?
Oh, I'm Laura. I
Laura.
graduated from Tulane last year.
Thank you, Laura. I think we got used to when there's a woman and a man discussing, there is a comparative advantage going to the woman, right? So I'm sure Mrs. Merkel will be able to win the debate and to win the case against President Hollande. But this is off the record, right? On a more substantial note, you know, what is the European Union at the end of the day? It is not. It is a group of democratic countries. In order to be a member, you have to be a democracy. In order to be a democracy, you have to have debate and you have to have different views that come to eventually to a consensus. Well, the European Union works like that. Imagine a democracy like the one you have in the United States and enlarge it to 27 countries. They all are part of the debate. As if they were in this room, which they are most of the time when they have to decide something, each of them has an opinion. At the end of the day, they have to come to a consensus. The very most important decisions are taken by unanimity, so you need to have everybody on board. Most other decisions are taken by a majority vote. But on issues of this importance, you need to have everybody on board. But in order to have everybody on board, each of them has to make some concessions. So you should not be surprised that there is a discussion, as much as you are not surprised, I believe, to see that there is a lot of discussion in this country before you get to any consensus. So this is normal. So we should not overstate or overestimate the importance of debate. And when we are dealing with such a difficult situation, when you have to decide whether or not you are going to take measures that will create unemployment on a temporary basis, if we have to decide to cut down on salaries or fire people because you know, businesses need to restructure, these are very difficult decisions to take. So the debate is absolutely necessary. What I see today, and I've seen in the last few years since the crisis started, is even without our differences, the cracks, as you say, we have been consistent in what we've been doing. And if you look back to these past few years, all the measures taken have aimed at reinforcing the integration, the economic integration. There was not a single decision taken that means we are going to step back. We are going to move backwards. We are going to destroy what we built. No. All the decisions go in the direction of saying, in order to solve these problems, we need to go even deeper in our economic integration. We are talking about, sorry for the big words, but we're talking about banking union. We're talking about fiscal union, which will complement the monetary union that already exists. So all this go in the direction of further integration. But sometimes it takes a little bit more time. Sometimes, you know, Mrs. Merkel has to make a larger concession. Sometimes it will be Mr. Hollande, not to forget all the other 25. So it's a complex business, not easy to follow, not easy to understand, not easy to practice. But as I used to say, I prefer to have my leaders fight over a communique than really fighting, than really sending people your age to war for economic or political reasons.
We got one here.
Sorry. Whatever works. Hi, Mr. Ambassador. My name's Adam Tannenbaum. I'm a freshman here at Tulane from the greatest state, New Jersey, for those of you who don't know. This is I'm going to step away from the economic front of things for a second. It's a very straightforward question. Do you believe the United States should support France in their efforts in Mali, or are they not obligated to?
Well, obligated they certainly are, but I think it's in their interest, and I think it's normal, natural, and obvious that we will expect solidarity from the United States, because what we are doing, what the French are doing with European support, is basically addressing a very dangerous situation. I mean, I referred to terrorism a while ago. There are organizations whose single purpose is to question the way we organize our societies, the values that we cherish, and they've chosen violent means to do that. I mean, I have no problem with someone staging a demonstration saying, I don't like capitalism, or I don't like the European Union, or I don't like the United States. That's freedom of expression, that's part of democracy, fundamental rights, no problem. But I have a real problem if people who think that way decide to express their views by killing people from the countries they don't like. I mean, they cross a red line that I don't think we can accept. And this country, the United States, as much as Europe, we have suffered enough from terrorism in order for us to be very attentive to detect any situation that can potentially become a threat for all of us. And what we're having in this part of Northern Africa is potentially an Afghanistan in our backyard, if I speak about Europe. And we need to look at the roots of the problem and act as soon as we can. The French acted at the request of the Mali government, under threat from this invasion, largely supported by organizations linked to the Al-Qaeda. And the French took the initiative. They were supported by all Europeans. There's full European solidarity behind the French. There are other countries contributing as well. We've been discussing with our American friends. They recognize the need to act, and they are already providing support. I think this is something that, again, an example where EU and US together, same values, same principles, same strategic interests, should translate that commonality of values and interests into common action.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Brandon Fask. I'm a junior, and I'm also from New Jersey, actually. My question is in regards to Turkey. I was abroad in Spain last semester. I took a class on the European Union, and we spent a significant portion of the class talking about Turkey and will Turkey join the EU, positive, negative aspects. And we seem to keep coming back to the idea that, by 2050 or so, Turkey will be the biggest country in Europe if they do join. And despite all the economic benefits, the natural gas pipeline that they're considering building into Austria, it just seemed that it would be a real difficult proposition for the Europeans to add a Muslim country that will be the largest country in Europe. What are your views on, or what do you think will happen with Turkey moving forward?
Okay, Turkey is a big issue. Turkey has become a very important partner of the Union, a very important regional actor economically, political, security-wise. You cannot change geography, so they are next to us, they are part of us, part of that territory is European. And this was the whole logic behind them starting a process of negotiations for accession. And this started a few years ago, and it will take a few years to complete. So the question which is being asked here in Europe, in Turkey, is, are conditions met for them to ever become a member? There has been an issue, it has been an issue inside Turkey, where some people are less convinced. It has been an issue inside Europe, where in some countries people are less convinced of the beauty of having Turkey inside. But officially, we continue to be committed to create conditions for Turkey to join the Union eventually. And this will take some time, but that's what we aim at. This is the objective, and that's what we're working for. So what are the problems in a simplified way? Well, the first problem as we see it is that Turkey has a problem with one of our member states, Cyprus. They do not recognize the existence of Cyprus for reasons that have to do with the fact that the island is divided. Because a few decades ago, the Turkish army invaded the northern part of Cyprus. This has not been recognized by the international community. The UN is there to guarantee peace between the two communities and managing the front line. And in the meantime, Cyprus, run by the Cyprus government, which is fundamentally Greek Cypriot, has joined the European Union. Turkey does not recognize Cyprus as a member of the European Union. So it's very difficult for us to admit Turkey to a club where they refuse to recognize one of the members of the club. This cannot happen, so we need to find a solution for that problem sooner or later, in any case before Turkey joins the European Union. This is one of the problems we have. The second problem we have with Turkey is that we believe it's a problem of time, but still they are not yet ready to join the Union in terms of human rights, respect for human rights, full democracy, freedom of speech, a number of issues where there has been enormous progress in Turkey, but not yet to the point of putting them at the same level as we are. This may be a question of time. My point today is that they are not yet there, and they should be at that level if they want to join. On our side, as I said, there has been the expression of some doubts in some of our countries, in parts of our public opinion, about Turkey joining. I think you are right in your assumption that the size of Turkey is an issue. It's already a big country. If it joins in 10 years' time, it's likely to be bigger, and our countries are likely to be smaller because of the demographic trends. So this will be an issue. How do we integrate such a big country in our system? There may be solutions for that, but in the minds of people, this is an issue. The second one is that some people consider Turkey not to be real European because they see it, too much to the east, too much to Asia. Well, technically, Turkey is a European country, so they have the right to apply, as we have agreed to accept them as candidate countries. And the third issue is, I would call it a cultural issue with a very strong religious dimension. Some people in Europe say that this is too much of a Muslim country to join the club. Well, on this issue, there are different views. But I have to be very clear. The European Union is not a Christian club where only Christians can join. There is absolutely no religious dimension in the European Union project. You will not find religious consideration in any of our founding treaties, on any of our legislation. On the contrary, we are fully for freedom of religion, for freedom of expression of religious beliefs, any other belief, by the way. We are an extremely liberal project. So nothing in our rules say that a majority Muslim country cannot join the Union. And in fact, if you look at the population today in Europe, you will see the Muslim religion as being, by far, in some of our countries, the second largest religion represented, namely because of immigration from Northern Africa and from Sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of the world, Asia in particular. And these people are fundamentally Muslim. So it's a fallacy to say that there are no Muslims in Europe. There are millions and millions of Muslims. There are millions of Turks in Europe, first, second, and third generation. And Europeans that profess the Muslim religion and who are, of immigration origin. So I think all these arguments are debatable, and I think they are not founded in reality, but they still represent a political problem, because every country of the Union has to agree to accept another member. So all will be consulted, and will be asked, do you want Turkey to join? And some countries have decided to do that through a referendum. So people will be directly asked, they will vote yes or no to Turkish membership. So this becomes this kind of perceptions and prejudice sometimes, ideas that are in the public opinion, they become a political problem because at the end of the day there will be a democratic decision to allow Turkey in. So, complex problem. I believe personally that it will be a good thing for Turkey and a good thing for Europe if Turkey joined the Union, but conditions are not yet met. and the political process will be a complex one.
Hello, Ambassador. My name is Joshua Aiken. I'm a master's student in the energy program here. You mentioned energy security as one of your goals while you were introducing yourself. And given the recent developments in natural gas in America, leading to Europe paying twice the amount that is paid in the United States, as well as the constant tension between the EU and Russia over natural gas prices. Different countries in the Union have different policies towards hydrofracking. Do you believe that the European Union should set it and allow blanket policies, since many of these resources go beneath borders that are shared by countries with different policies?
Well, I think the points you raise are extremely important. Some people say this is what's going on here on fracking and shale gas and unconventional oil and all that. Some say this is the single most important economic phenomenon and reality since the rise of China or the return of China to the world. It's certainly a very important development, and we are in Europe looking at that. I've been following this very attentively, and I've been witnessing in a number of parts of this country the speed of change. If you visit North Dakota and you talk to them about crises and unemployment and things like that, they tell me, what are you talking about? We need people, we need houses, we need roads, we need trucks, that's what we need. We have, they are in a full boom, economic boom in North Dakota and other parts of the United States because of that. But of course, most importantly, this has the potential to have a major impact in U.S. competitiveness, the competitiveness of your industries, of your companies. And if that is the case, it will be at the detriment of those who don't share those conditions. And you said very clearly, Europe will be in a disadvantaged position as compared to the U.S. You could have, European manufacturers moving to the U.S. because of the energy costs. So this is a serious issue. But this could have other implications on a geostrategic foreign policy level, because you could change the balance worldwide. I mean, you have to question about what will be the role of the Gulf states, the Gulf oil-producing states, what will be the attitude of other partners, Europe, the US, towards those countries if they were less dependent upon the oil coming from there. You have to consider Russia. Russia is not happy with gas prices going down, and they are feeling instability there as well. So you could go on, and if you talk about China, which is, of course, the biggest consumer of all this, how do they position themselves? So we could go on for a couple of hours trying to speculate about what could happen as a result of this energy revolution that is taking place in the US. In Europe, we also have shale gas, but we have a very intense debate starting, and we have not yet reached the peak of the intensity of this debate, I can assure you, about the environmental consequences of this. And at one point, this debate will also cross the Atlantic back to the US, I'm sure. So I think there will be in some time a very important debate about how do you manage all the implications of this energy revolution for the environment, for the planning of our countries, for the in Europe, I mean, you have the advantage of having space here. You have more space in the US than you have in Europe. In Europe, it's difficult to find an area of land where there is no urban areas or interests that can be in contradiction with the use of the new technology. So it's a big debate coming up with very wide implications. I think anyone studying this today and becoming a specialist in these issues, I think there will be a market for you in the coming years, because energy is becoming a major driver of foreign policy. Foreign ministers are more and more getting involved into energy issues, energy security. And if I were you, and if I were as young as you are, I would also look very much at the issue of water in the future. And, anyway, I'll stop here. But yeah, this is an extremely important subject.
Hi, I'm Nancy Thomas, and I live and work in Paris, France. I graduated from Tulane University 35 years ago. And I just had a question. I'm very curious to know your opinion on the situation in Greece right now and your thoughts on its continued membership in the EU and the impact that the economic situation will have on the euro.
Yes. Well, Greece is one of the countries I referred earlier to that have been particularly affected by the financial crisis and the troubles and turbulence inside the euro area. Greece has a number of problems that were at the origin of this situation. One of them being a total imbalance in their public finances. A very high debt, very high deficit. A few problems even in terms of accountancy of public finances. So an extremely difficult situation coupled with a very low competitiveness of their economy, a taxation, a fiscal system taxation that is not working, administration, very weak administration. So you can have a long list of problems that, if put together and when put together created this particular difficult situation. We are helping Greece. We have created 2 assistance programs for Greece with the support of the IMF, and Greece is slowly getting out of trouble. They are not yet there. They will not return to the markets very soon, but they are taking all the steps that are required to improve their situation. At one point in time, a few months ago, a couple of years ago, it's been a recurrent issue whether or not Greece should or would leave the euro. And many people wrote in this country that they were sure that Greece would leave. Many financial operators were betting against this reality or this probability. The fact is that Greece is still in the euro area. There is no prospect of Greece leaving the euro area. And we are very happy to see that because we are always committed to keep Greece inside. We didn't think that a Grexit, as the papers would call it, the exit of Greece from the euro area will be a solution for any problem. It will create more problems for Greece and more problems for the Union. So that is not necessarily a good solution. If it creates more problems than it solves, it's not a good solution. So the decision was taken firstly by the Greek government and the Greek state and public opinion and parliament that they should seek to remain in the euro area. This was joined by the similar commitment from the other members of the euro area, assistance to Greece in order to create the conditions for them to stay. So I think that the prospect of Greece leaving the euro area is out of the picture. We are now fully concentrated in bringing Greece up to the level where they should be in terms of balance of public finances, competitiveness of their economy.
We have time for one more question here.
Well, hi, Mike Sander, MBA, Masters of Energy. Great Britain's been in the news recently or over the last year or two talking about somewhat disconnecting themselves from the euro. Do you have any thoughts about that? Thank you.
Many thoughts. I'm not sure all of them I can share with you, but I will share some. First of all, it's clear that it's up to the British people to decide what they want to do with that country. It was up to them to decide if they wanted to join, which they decided to do, and which was accepted by the other members of the European communities at the time. This was, if I'm not wrong, 1973. It's also up to them if they want to leave the European Union. By the way, parentheses, there is no such case in the history of the European Union. No country ever left the European Union. Even the mechanisms to leave are not that clear. You know, you don't find anywhere say if a country wants to leave, they will have to fill the form X, Y, or Z. No, there's nothing foreseen for that because people were not thinking of a country wanting to leave. But theoretically, and in absolute terms, they can decide to leave, and if that is the case, we will find the ways to materialize that. So first and foremost is a decision for the Brits, and it will be organized, if that is the case, with all the other members. Secondly, I took good note of the fact that David Cameron, in his speech, which I did not listen to but read in the plane coming to New Orleans, is very clear about his own personal position. He believes that Britain should remain in the European Union. And I think this is a very important statement. So we expect David Cameron to do the necessary to keep Britain in the European Union. Thirdly, he said he would initiate contacts with the other partners in order to create a number of conditions that he thinks are necessary for him to convince the public in Britain that is a good thing for Britain to stay in the European Union. And I think the reaction of all the other members was to say, okay, let's discuss, but let's not forget that changes in the European Union as such need to be agreed by everybody. So we can start a debate, but the end of the debate is not determined by one country against the others, it's determined by all the countries. That's how we work in the European Union. That's, you know, the DNA of the European Union, as I explained earlier. So with all these elements in mind, I think we should approach this next phase with a constructive attitude, talking to our British friends, listening to what they want to do about this, and everybody will express their views. I think we all want the United Kingdom to remain in the European Union. We believe it's good for them and good for us. And I was very happy to see that is also the view of the United States and President Obama and the US administration. They said very clearly that first they want a strong Europe. And secondly, that they think that Europe will be stronger if the UK is inside Europe. And thirdly, they think the UK will be stronger if it is a member of the European Union. So these three statements by President Obama are extremely important. As EU representative, I'm very happy to see the President recognize publicly that he values the European Union and that he wants it to be as strong as possible a partner, and that within that he believes that Britain is part of that reality. So we'll see how this debate evolves. Again, it's an expression of democracy, of transparency and openness in the European Union. And it's part of the beauty of our project to be able to discuss all these issues together. Let me just conclude by saying just a few things about the importance I attach to your areas of interest and the fact that you, in doing what you do, being students or faculty or any other activity, that you look beyond New Orleans, that you look beyond Tulane University, that you consider that in order to understand New Orleans, you need to understand the world. You need to keep an open-minded approach to things. You need to realize that in today's globalized economy, as I said earlier, we are in this together. So it's very important for young people like you starting their professional life or preparing for it to keep an open-minded approach, you know, to understand what goes on in China or Thailand or Brazil or Chile as much as what goes on in Europe or Louisiana or the French Quarter or whatever, because there are implications for all of us from whatever happens around the world. And I'm very happy to see that you are interested by what is going on in the European Union. I'm very committed to strengthen the relations with the US. I think there's a lot we can do together, but I wanted to do it and to share these views with all of you outside Washington. And I thank Tulane University for inviting me. And I thank you all of you for coming today. Thank you very much.